Ladies and gentlemen, Season 1, Episode 10, One Angry Princess. The beginning of this episode hit so hard I almost paused the episode. Like, kind of in a bad way. How many of you have ever really poured your heart and soul into something and be like, yeah! And then, like, you know, nobody cares, right? Nobody shows up. Like, 3 people come over. I hate that feeling. I hate that feeling so much. And my heart just lunges out for frickin' Attila. Like, oh my god, you poor thing. You finally did it. You're finally going to be a baker. Naturally, I immediately recognize Steve Blum. He does have a rather recognizable voice, which is funny, though, because he also has some good range. There's some roles that some people never realized were him, but I'm not going to go into that right now. It's a damn shame that nobody's showing up for this thing because, you know, Attila the Bun is a great pun. There's even a funny bit where Monty, who's actually back, is willing to go try it out, pays for the thing, and immediately gives word of mouth. And honestly, someone like Monty, who is well beloved and liked as he is the kind of person that, yeah, if he's willing to say by word of mouth, this is good, there's a pretty good chance that other people are going to go ahead and buy it. Nope, doesn't work immediately. Because he's like, oh, good, I'll go try it. Oh my god, there's a giant scary person. Also happens with the kid. Okay, so then they decide to go and spread word of mouth. This is actually a nice little scene. As they're like, hey, go do the thing. My favorite part, now listen to me, you punk. You're gonna go. You're in the mood to buy some cakes. You're in the mood to buy a lot of cakes. And if you don't mean, yeah, we're gonna have a one. Thank you, officer. Nothing going on around here. That got a real laugh out of me. There's also a quote Rapunzel said where she says, being a statesperson is fine, but I want to do things that really matter. That's probably actually the biggest and best joke of the entire episode. And the episode doesn't even pause on it. It just kind of slides right there and they immediately move on. Anyways. So, oh my god. Monty's place has been ravaged, savaged. So it was the goat, right? I'm not actually joking when I say that in my notes, as I'm looking over the evidence, it's like, oh yeah, it was the goat. It was pretty much immediately self-apparent that it was the goat. Now, I didn't know the specifics, but come on. I also noticed, I'm going to go ahead and say this now, almost all of the hints that they laid throughout the episode to lead to it. I missed one thing. Can you guess, excuse me, can you guess which thing I missed? So, they're doing the whole thing, and they're like, all right. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. They also kept doing this thing with Monty where he kept squinting, and I'm like... But no, I did actually catch the glasses thing. So, we have to go to the trial. Your Honor, here's the evidence, such as it is. Here's the puncture thing. Place is ransacked. We found the thing under his foot. Oh, yeah. And also, why would an innocent man run? Oh, yeah, and I caught that. Speaking of quiet things there, considering the evidence and his record. I don't want to go too far down this particular rabbit hole because this is kind of a thing for me, and I know people are tired of hearing me talk about it, but the fact that, and this is a thing in real life jurisdictions as well, the fact that your record can then be further used against you, regardless of the reality of whatever crime you may or may not have committed, kind of sucks. Regardless of like morality or anything like that, let's just ignore ethics for a second. From a practical standpoint, what that does is it encourages repeat offenders because there's no going straight. If anything happens at any point in time, then you're going to be automatically presumed guilty because that is something that can legally be used as evidence against you in this new crime you may be innocent from. And yeah, also the guard was rather biased twice, so yeah, that was all rather unpleasantly uncomfortable. I'm not even going to mention the fact that both the king and the guard who was prosecuting did not understand the laws of their own kingdom. When Rapunzel actually brings up the thing, I forget what it was, but we have a chance to have a 1 hour time to prove his innocence. Something you might have actually seen referred to as a trial. It was something in Latin. The response of those two people is, huh? And it has to be the frickin' archivist guy, the guy, the bookworm type, to actually point out that, yeah, no, she's right. That is actually something that's true. So it's like, oh, okay. I also like her line, I've been reading up in Corona law. And there's this really minor thing where the king's like, you have? Because he doesn't read up on law. Why would he? He spends all his time pranking other kingdoms and exiling people. I'm sorry, I'm not very impressed with him as a king so far. He's certainly not dystopian, but he strikes me as the prototypical negligent king, right? Decent guy, probably, like on the good aligned side of the axis, but overall relatively incompetent for someone of his station. By contrast, as we saw earlier in the episode, Rapunzel's someone who actually gives a damn and is trying to do the best she can. Which is interesting. Yeah, not a ruler, exactly. He did Bionic Punk, I'm not trying to be too harsh, but that does mean he's not a good ruler, and he happens to be a dictator. And I don't mean that as the insult. Again, tyrant. When most people use the word dictator, what they mean is tyrant. A dictator is just a form of government where one person's at the top. That's all it is, right? He's a dictator. So, very, very interesting little tidbit that the episode. There's actually some decent detail in this episode. As Monty is discussing, I've been considering remodeling anyways, but a few months ago I probably wouldn't have been. And it's just this little line they mentioned. They do draw a little bit too much attention to it because she stares at the medal that he got in the previous episode. But that's it. Nice tidbit. So we see that the door is smashed out. Yeah, I caught that immediately, of course. I should also probably mention the obvious references to both Law and Order. Dun, dun, dun. But also 12 Angry Men, which is where the title comes from. Right about at this point, I started noticing that there was no real asshole in the episode, and that was starting to make me worry. I was getting nervous, uncertain, unusual, this kind of unfamiliar territory. I'm not used to there not being an asshole in a Tangled episode. I noticed that too, Ross. Pro tip, don't ever say the defense rests unless you mean it. Because what you mean when you say the defense rests is your side of the case is done. There's actually a lot of precedents and rules and regulation that goes in. But the bottom line is, that's what you say at the no really end. In fiction, people like to say that as a way to, like, punctuate a sentence. This is this, the defense rests. Except they don't, because then the trial keeps going. It doesn't work that way. Sorry, moving on. So we see a platter of fruit, cake, jello, cheese, crackers, and sausages. I feel like someone was hungry when they animated this scene. Yeah, mic drop. And this got an actual laugh out of me to the point where it hurt my head. And it's probably one of the reasons I'm going to put the show down for today, because I really do need to lie down and recover a little bit. 2:02 and 27 seconds. So, she's like, no, Captain, we have to pull the ship back. Okay. And the captain does help. I'll give him that. That's good. Thumbs up. 3 people pull the ship back with its sails open. In a show with a high writer factor, I would say that this is actually indicative of the level of superhuman power that Rapunzel has. That this is the kind of thing that is showcasing how she is just... She's a superhero, right? Like, she has superpowers. And that's fine, by the way. In fact, that's immediately what I thought. I mean, I'm the person who said for years that the main characters of Assassin's Creed games are superhuman, only to be laughed at about that for years, until the games finally confirmed that that was actually true. It took a while to get there, but, So in this case, it doesn't bother me, the idea that she's superhuman. But again, I don't know if this is just a sight gag, or if they're actually trying to indicate something. Either way. Could be. Maybe everyone's superhuman. I don't know. I don't know how the setting works. Either way, they pull it back. Cool. And then they start running through the evidence to show that he's innocent. Of course, it was the goat. But the real culprit, the real person who is most responsible for this damage, is the true asshole of the episode. I'm not joking. And this is the one tidbit I missed. The smell. You remember when Cassandra was in the thing commenting on the smell? I thought it was just her being like, oh man. And I didn't really process it. It was just her being awkward and weird. And even the line that was said immediately after it was like, here, let's get that foot out of your mouth. It didn't really occur to me that she was actually drawing attention to a clue. I'll give you that one episode. I also don't want to point out the fact that the the captain guard, probably doesn't have the authority to override the king's decision to banish him. Oh yeah, by the way, this wonderful benevolent kingdom has a barge, a prison barge. They have a these people have a prison on a ship that's just out. Okay, we're done. It probably is where Lady Kane is. They have a prison barge. Okay. Just... I mean, you're probably thinking, why do they have a prison in addition to the dungeon? That actually makes sense. For those of you not aware, dungeons in fiction, especially at least good, well-written fiction, usually are more like jails in real life, a.k.a. that's the temporary spot. You're not supposed to stay in the dungeon. You go into the dungeon temporarily while we figure out what's going on with you. Then you're sent off to the prison, and apparently their prison is a freaking barge! Okay, we're done. And then we have to end on a wah-wah. Remember when we kept track of wah-wahs over in MLP? Remember how that number of the wah-wahs went down substantially over time? I hope that happens here too. Because wah-wah, the goat goes crazy, and everything's destroyed at the end. I did like Monty bringing in Attila. It was honestly kind of the right move. Monty's got enough social cred, for lack of a better way to do it, to be able to help him, and he does make good baked goods. I mean, honestly, I was kind of expecting that from the beginning. My very, very, very first thought was that Monty was going to be the asshole of the episode and try to take advantage of Attila. But I'm glad I was wrong about that one. I also have to admit that it's like, I don't know, it's a good partnership. It matches up well. I'm with it. And yeah, Monty is now going to be making more money, and Attila is going to be able to fulfill his dream. Cool. I'm happy in both directions. Now, if only we could kill Shorty. He literally caused all the problems of the episode. Unrepentantly. So. Rating. Oh yes, that's it. Let's banish Shorty to Saporia. Oh wait, that doesn't exist anymore. Oh yeah, there was the double 4Cs joke. That could be it. No, it just starts with a K. So I'm actually looking at a couple of other oranges to, like, get a contrast, right? I don't think it's red. I don't think this pushes up to red. But I think I agree this might actually be our best episode so far, which is a good sign. We've been doing better in general. Well, okay, that's not true. But we did have the return of Strongbow, which I liked, and we did have Under Wraps, which I liked. That's right, it's playful! I think I agree. I think we're going to go ahead and call this our first orange. Yeah, commit. I think I agree. It's solid. The asshole was very minor. This is a very small asshole. Couldn't quite get anything into it. And it's a solid episode. It actually has legitimately funny, funny gags in it. We have a surprisingly large amount of world building. It continues the slice of life. This is actually something I've already commented on this, but the slice of life trend has been very consistent for 10 episodes so far. I'm wondering how long that's going to keep going, because after this, so I don't know anything. I just know the titles because I'm staring at a list. We've got Pascal's Story, which is probably going to be another slice of life backstory kind of a thing. Big Brothers of Corona, no idea what that means. The Wrath of Ruthless Ruth, no idea. Max's Enemy, shrug. Way of the Willow, no idea. and then Queen for a Day. And the only reason I know Queen for a Day is substantial is because more than one person has told me that's when it kicks off. I also happen to know that from a certain episode, which I'm going to assume, based on context clues, is Queen for a Day, and onward is all one story arc. You know, so we're probably going to end with our either Way of the Willow or Max's Enemy is probably going to be the end of the slice of life kind of stuff, based on how we're presenting it. Oh, that's another thing. Queen for a Day is actually a 44 instead of a 22. I actually already knew that because I had to know all this stuff for timing purposes. Hopefully that'll be something we'll get to either reach or get to tomorrow. But unfortunately, like I said, I'm having trouble even just keeping my eye open right now because the migraine is getting worse. So I'm going to go lay down, turn off all the lights, and I hope you'll enjoy. I'll see you tomorrow.